Hi, welcome to Conversion Conversations. This is Cameron, and today I'm taking a look at Transformers Generations Age of the Primes Aerialbot Silverbolt. We've got Silverbolt here in his alt mode. This is a Commander class figure and a combiner. He comes with, I'd say, a Voyager-ish size main toy. This is a really, I'd say, poor rendition of the Concorde, that famous jet, the supersonic commercial jet. And it comes with, I guess we're going to call it like a booster rocket pack. Like, unfortunately, there's no rocket ends here. I was thinking about that today, that it would have been nice if they had some sort of ports or something for effect pieces on the back end. But it, is kind of vaguely wing-shaped if you squint at it hard enough, and it can hook up to the back of our jet mode. We'll do that in a little bit. I think today's video is going to be focused, in order to try and keep it short, just on Silverbolt as a toy, and then we'll do all the rocket pack stuff with Superion when I get all of the Aerialbots. Starting out, though, Silverbolt, I think, immediately has two problems for me when I see him in vehicle mode. The first one is they are using, it's not quite the Hasbro prototype gray plastic. This is a warmer, more yellow gray. So it doesn't wash out greebled details quite as strongly. If you can see there, I got some paint on my hands. We've been painting the new house. But it is close enough that it still comes off a little bland and boring. There's just, I would have liked if this was like closer to maybe the Skylinks, like a cooler gray plastic would have been nice. I understand he's got to be gray because the original toy was gray. Maybe it just is kind of represents how, to me, the Aerialbots are kind of boring, but it is what it is. I do like the gold painted windows. I like, we've got the cockpit up top. We've got all sorts of passenger spots and windows. I do like that we've got like the emergency exit door, the main door. That's kind of neat. But if we're looking at this wing shape, this is not what the Concorde looked like. This, I'm going to put a picture of the Concorde right here. You can see here from the top, this needs to cut in and then go out further. From a design perspective, the reason the Hasbro designers did not do that was because if they cut in more, if this angle is truer to the actual profile of the plane, then we'd see more of this terrible robot parts down below. That these are just hanging here. This is the curse of the Aerialbots, right? To take something as sleek as a human commercial jet or fighter jet and turn it into a boxy G1 robot is really, really hard to do. That's why I don't think it's worth doing it. I understand there are fans that are strange fans that are fans of the freaking Aerialbots, which I don't understand, but whatever. I'm sure they played an important part in some bit of lore. I struggle to think of what they did in the original cartoon, and they really only existed in the comic books to get blown apart, it seems. But because there are those fans out there and Hasbro wants to sell them a toy, they're trying to make it as G1 as possible. I think it does end up looking pretty lame. I do like, there's certain things I like. I like the detail on the wings. I don't like the wing shape. It really, that's something that bothers me just as a fan of planes. I really hate the robot bits underneath. I particularly think that these feet pieces, and I was looking at the instructions, is that really the configuration it should be? And it is. If you look right here, that's what it looks like. I feel like these feet pieces, if only they were on a slider where you could have tucked under, would have probably helped just a little bit to sell that this thing could maybe pretend to fly just a little bit more. It does have landing gear. I do appreciate that the landing gear is here. It's not casters, but it does have 3 points of landing gear that you can fold up. The front one it's not very strong, it will fold up. I do really like that this nose cone tilts. If you don't know, that is something that the Concorde does when it's taking off. It kind of, the nose cone comes down and it takes off like this, and then once it's at cruising altitude, when it goes supersonic, the nose cone comes back up. I do like that. But as is, this just isn't that. It's neat. I love the Concorde. I love that plane. I'm a huge aviation history buff. I'm in the aviation industry. I see the Concorde at the museum. I love that plane. this doesn't do much for me. In fact, to me, it really pales in comparison to the TFC's Uranos. This is their Silverbolt, and their version, they decided to do an SR-71. Now, same problem as before. You have, this is the robot, none of the plane. You have the plane on top, and then you have the robot beneath. But it just hides itself better if we're looking at it sideways. Like if we're looking at the two in comparison, you just see less robot from the top, which I think is like, if you're gonna compromise and have this below, at least hide it up top, please. And this is a cooler, like this to me matches the Aerialbot theme better. A Blackbird is at least a military aircraft. The Aerialbots are odd in that the whole team is military aircraft except for their leader, who is a passenger jet. It's not a fair comparison. They're two very different price points. This did come out like a decade ago now, I think, right? It came out in like 2015, 2016, so nearly a decade ago. And this has its own issues. This toy is fiddly. The combined mode doesn't have the sturdiest hips, all that stuff. But if I'm looking at just what is the best Silverbolt, the G1 Silverbolt I can get, I like this one, even though it's not G1 versus the G11, if that makes sense. Now, there is some play pattern here, which I do like. We can take this piece, if we fold up these wings here, and then fold down this tail piece, we can clip these red sections in around Silverbolt's knees. It locks in pretty nicely. And then you have these sections, a slot that's going to go on top of this red tab, and then a slot that's going to go on top of this gray tab. And it does lock in very securely. I do like how that works, at least. It is interesting, like you can leave this up, but you're supposed to put this down. I don't know, this doesn't do much for me in terms of like evoking an emotion. Like it's not like, oh, that's cool. But it's nice that it does that. Like it does a thing. I understand that the design aesthetic for these combiners, these modern combiners, is to basically give them their center body as its own piece so that it can be as G1 as possible. And I think this is like at least a good compromise in terms of play pattern, even if it's not something that I feel strongly about. So in terms of like the amount of toy you're getting, I'd say this is small for a commander, but it's equivalent to Motormaster. And if you like that type of combining toy, then you'll probably be pretty happy here. And it does come apart, you know, easily enough. You just split him out like so. Fold those pieces down. You can stick that to the side. The only other thing I think I want to show right now is Silverbolt with his buddies. And here we've got our 3 Aerialbots together so far. I know a video just came out with all 5 of them. As a team, like right now, obviously, I haven't been too high up on them as toys. And I want to acknowledge and preface that I recognize I have a bias because of my enjoyment of the aviation industry and planes. And I want, my personal bias is that the Aerialbots need to be good planes, and they're not. They're not good planes. That being said, I recognize that they are good G1 toys for fans of the G1 Transformers, which is a good thing for those fans. It really feels like I'm trying to qualify my faint praise for them. But, you know, here's how they look as a team. And obviously we'll get the rest in when we get them. In terms of transformation, Silverbolt here is very simple. We have a gun that we can pop off. We have a front section that we can open up right here. Take that nose cone, flip it backwards, fold it away. Take this piece with the robot mode head, and it will come up in 2 locations. This whole thing can fold back like so. Then we can take our wing sections. We're going to open them up because they have tabs that tab into what are our robot legs. We can pop down each of our legs, rotating them and rotating out the feet while folding out a heel section for each foot. Same thing on this side, fold it out, fold it around, and then bring out that foot like so. Then we can open up the chest like so, folding out Silverbolt's head, rotating it around. Then we can come in, these are the robot arms, they fold out, which lets us fold in our Superion head. We can rotate it and it'll clip in place. And this is an interesting bit of transformation to me. These antennae, there's just enough cutout here that the pieces will fold up into those holes. We want to get, and I wish this had a locking section. This is something I don't like about the transformation. These arm pieces just kind of float, but it is intended that these tabs go into these slots while this whole section comes back, and these red tabs go into these slots. But you got to like watch the whole thing and kind of get it lined up as you come back, and then the antenna might move. I think that, there we go. It's not too bad to get it right, but just one additional locking detent on the arms, I think would have gone a long way to make the transformation end on a high note, because you're basically done here. You can come in and you can flip around the arms, flip around these hands on both sides like so. Put his gun in his hand, and here is Silverbolt in his robot mode. And I'll say it, again, it is a nice chunky G1 robot, and it feels weird for me to say that I don't want Silverbolt to be that. I recognize that's weird. Everyone who likes the Aerialbots likes the G1 Aerialbots. I'm the weird one, and I know that I'm the weird one. But Silverbolt here doesn't do much for me. He just looks like a guy. Like, he looks like he's wearing suspenders with these red bands. He looks like his pants are up a little too high. He looks like he's got the dad bod going. He's not very heroic looking, and he kind of just wants to sit down in his easy chair, which he can do. He's got the articulation to do that. Sit down in his easy chair, take it easy, and watch some sports. He doesn't look like a hero bot, which is what I want him to look like. These are like the only Autobots that can fly aside from Jetfire and Skylynx and others. And Sideswipe and, you know, everyone else who can fly when they want to. But they're the flying bots. I want them to fly more. The other things I don't like, I wish that, like, if we come back here, we can open this up and we can open this up so that we can get some rotation. But then now we see like the problem. It's just not a solid connection point. But we do have like the faintest bit of waist swivel if we come in here, but it does split our robot back. So normally it's going to be in this position, and you just don't get waist swivel, which is unfortunate. We do have kind of a frumpy looking head sculpt. I like the silver paint, but the shape of the head, it makes me think of a little boy in Wisconsin wearing like those earmuff winter hats, where like this is his hat and these are the earmuffs that surround it. I don't know. He just looks like a dork. The Aerialbots are dorks. They're dorks. They're lame dorks. I don't like them. We can, I did forget, we can fold up these wingtips, which I did want to mention real quick. This is not an issue. I know some people online were complaining that they have these cuts here. It has to pass certain safety standards, and if they let the wing transition naturally without that divot in there, it would be too sharp. It would cause an issue. The same thing comes up here, but I recognize that's a safety limitation. Articulation isn't that bad other than the waist. The arms can go 360. They can go out that far. They do have bicep swivel. They do go, you know, a little past 90. He can go full backwards, but that's due to transformation. I really wish he had wrist swivel. It's a shame that he doesn't. He can do the full Van Damme. He can kick up, not super high, but that far. His back kick is really limited, but you can cheat a little bit to get a teeny tiny bit more. He does have a double knee joint, which I do appreciate, especially for flying poses. And then you're like breaking the thigh up a little bit, but that's fine. He does have thigh swivel, and he does have big old ankle tilt. So like there are compromises made to the posability, but he can probably do most basic major poses. And I think he looks kind of okay here. He does have some additional functionality with his base in this mode. If we take his little jetpack thing. We can pop up this section, which can unfold out like so. We can come in here, we can lift up this back piece of what is clearly Superion's chest. We can lift up this tab here, and that lets us separate out. Come on. There we go. Separate out this piece. This piece folds back down now, then this piece folds on top of it. Kind of sit like that. We can take these sections and fold them this way, rotate them this way, and then this whole section essentially acts as a little bulwark piece. Had it upside down like this. This can come in, it can tab in like this, and it forms a fence. It forms like a chest-high wall here. And our unfolded gun can come in right here and sit there. And this is not a great solid connection. It feels super finicky. It definitely feels like, oh shit, we gotta like do something else with this piece. But there is Silverbolt, and he can hide behind his fence. I wish this had some sort of rotation. That would have helped add a little play pattern here. It's, you know, it's not even fine. It's super lame, and it's just a brick. There's no, like, this to me isn't actual play pattern. This is set dressing. This is fan mode. This should have a rotation point. This piece should form a platform so that Silverbolt can stand on top of it, right? And then he has like a gun that he can hold and shoot. This is essentially nothing to me. I wanted to show it in the review, but this to me does not add any value to the toy. Now, he can, of course, hide behind the wall with his buddies. If you want to see how they look together, we can actually put them up front. You know, again, this is the problem for me, is that with these aerial bot designs, the G1 aerial bots, nobody looks cool here. No one's like, oh, I want that robot. Everyone looks like this guy's an accountant who's losing his hair. This guy is a gardener, and there's nothing wrong with that. And this guy is a dad that works at the mill and just wants to sit on his lazy boy. Oh, look, you know what? Maybe that's what this is. This is a little lazy boy. He can come back here. We can take this off. Because this comes apart so easily, it can kind of recline. And then he can like sit back. There we go. You know what? I take it back. 10 out of 10. Perfect toy. I'm not going to review the torso right now. It's there. It functions. But I think we'll do that in a separate like Superion review. We'll do that as like its own video. So this is it. For now, I have not been kind to any of the aerial bots. I recognize that. I apologize for the aerial bot stands, but I don't feel I need to apologize because you guys are probably pretty happy. These are fine toys, and they are G1 aerial bots. But for me, I think that the Combiner Wars like play pattern was more interesting, and that version, those like that more heroic silhouette, that the like angles, the curves just made them more interesting than these guys. But you know, that's what personal taste is for and all that. I'm done rambling. Thanks everybody for watching. Catch you all on the next one. Bye.